everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Quantum Action. Today I've got Susan Manewich with us from Boston, and she's going to be talking to us about new energies and technologies and that she's involved with, which is a very, very interesting subject and something that's very current right now. A lot of people are talking about renewable energy and solar power and all this kind of thing. But Susan's got some even more interesting technologies to talk to us about. So Susan, welcome to Quantum Action. And this is the show that takes people to infinity and beyond. And welcome to the show. And tell us a bit about your work.
Well, thank you for having me today. I appreciate that. A little bit about my work. I would say that I wrote a book with Jean Manning. I have it right here so people can see it.
Yeah,
it's called Hidden Energy, Tesla-Inspired Inventors and a Mindful Path to Energy Abundance. So Jean has been a writer for many years. She's probably one of the best writers and like a historian recording different inventors that have been working on alternative energy technologies. So it was a real honor to work with her and the information, that we put together. And I run New Energy Movement, which is a nonprofit dedicated to understanding and providing support in regards to new energy technologies. So there's a bit of a history and a bit of a background in it. My approach to this is a bit more, I would say, on understanding the human dynamics and also a bit of the consciousness piece that goes into working with these technologies. We have a tendency to think that technology is just black and white and boom, that's it. But these technologies also teach us that there's much more involved than, meets the eye with, nuts and bolts.
Yeah, and I do believe that as humans, we need to be mature enough for certain technology. And I think probably God or whoever people want to call it, universal energy or whatever. But I think Heavenly Father, as I like to call him, he will reveal certain technologies or send certain ideas to people when humankind is ready. Are we mature enough? I mean, often people ask me, we're going to go to other planets. And this, I said, look, we have to get this place right first. And I don't think we're gonna receive the technology that's required to travel to another planet until we are spiritually mature. I use the word spiritual because I think that's the most important thing. Because if we can sort that out first, then all the rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that people can see that we're in this very large planetary shift right now. Which looks like chaos to some and feels like chaos as well, also is giving way to newfound collaborations with people, newfound ideas. Sometimes I think people would think that they're at times losing it, right? But what's behind that is a very large change, and also, relating to the electromagnetics that are on the planet. So, it's fascinating as you say what you say, because if you were to say that a couple of years ago, people kind of go like this, but when you actually feel these changes, you feel these transitions, and you see that, we did experience a world in lockdown.
Exactly. So now leading to my next question. Yeah.
Yes. So all this change and all this shift that's happening, and there's reasons for it, but also there is a lot that is going on behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people know and understand, that bringing some clarity to could really help people to not feel like they're isolated and not feel like they're alone and not feel like they're losing it.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people during lockdown, you're shut in your house, you can't go out. More people go on the internet, and I always tell the story of the little old lady around the corner who suddenly discovers she can shop for her groceries on her iPad that her granddaughter gave her. She's like, oh, this is really convenient. So now we're out of lockdown. I think the little old lady's still ordering her groceries from her iPad because it's convenient. And so I think a lot of this digital technology has been accelerated as a result of everybody shut in their homes. But at the same time, it's opened up people's minds to sort of realize that they can talk to someone on WhatsApp or Zoom or whatever medium they're using, whether this person is in the house next door to theirs or on the other side of the planet. Oh, I can talk to people on the other side of the planet, and it's free as long as I got an internet connection. I think that's opened people's minds to opportunities, new businesses, and all sorts of things as a result of the lockdown. And the way I always kind of explain it to people is that there is a battle going on right now between good and evil. So the next question is, well, how do I know if something's good or if something's evil? And the way I look at it is, well, good always creates, evil destroys. So you have to ask yourself the question, is this thing going to create or is this thing going to destroy? And then you'll know if it's good or bad. And so I think this kind of thing is going on in the background. But people, if they look at things with that type of mindset, then they realize that there's a bigger thing going on besides, lockdowns and whatnot, and vaccinations and non-vaccinations. And, and we could talk for hours on should you be vaccinated or not, but that's not the subject of today's podcast. So anyway, how has people's mindset changed, do you think, as a result of this lockdown?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in the beginning, so because we talk about the lockdown, so 2020, right? Yeah. I think in the beginning when this happened, you have certain people that may have been, it was a very small percentage that were paying attention to what was happening, and they were paying attention to what was going on, whether it was laws and regulations, maybe religious freedoms being taken away, maybe an increase in biomedical creation. There's a different type of creation. But people that were paying attention to, I would say, these trends that others were not paying attention to. When this lockdown happened, well, we won't even say COVID, but when the lockdown happened, there was people that said, this was coming. And they could feel it, they could see it, it was in some of these laws that were being passed. And, it just seemed like there was this squeeze that was coming into what appeared to have some behavior modification at play.
Yeah, it was like a social experiment. They wanted to see how we reacted.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, even a little bit more than that, which, we can talk about as well. But you have a very small percentage that actually were on the precipice of seeing this in advance. And then I think they were the ones that over the last 2 years were really, mostly on alternative media, but that were really holding that space. They weren't kowtowing to everything that was being bestowed upon, human beings and asking questions. There was, the people that were doing this really well were just asking questions. And of course they were getting, how dare you even ask the question? You must follow, the dominant narrative. And, now because those people held that space for that long of a period of time, it provided a lot of strength and support, and sanity for those that maybe were questioning, but, just didn't have enough information or just needed a little bit more support and encouragement. So, now that we see this whole circle that has happened over these last 2 years, I think people have actually woken up much more. I mean, there's always going to be a percentage of the population that doesn't necessarily wake up from a severe and extreme set of changes in their day-to-day lifestyle. But I would say that the predominant majority of people, at least that I know, that were not awake previously, are much more open. I think great. That I really do. I think that people are more open. I'm watching people even collaborate differently. And it's almost like this sense of, okay, there's things that were really tough for humanity. Humanity as a species may not make it if we continue along these trajectories. So I think you've got this awareness now that wasn't there previously. And that's what I'm seeing on my end. I'm seeing less individualism, more collaboration, more cooperation, and more seeking information as opposed to just following a dominant narrative. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Now, you've been around the world interviewing people that develop new technologies, powered by other types of energy sources. Let's say you've been meeting with the Nikola Teslas of today, and we did an episode a few weeks ago about Nikola Tesla, the biographer, the guy that did the documentary, The Tesla Files, and he revealed some interesting information and some recent discoveries about Nikola Tesla, and he published a new book about new findings and that, and they replicated some of his experiments to prove that they actually work. So that I found that very interesting. Now, as you've met with these inventors and that, what's happening in the world, and are these inventions going to come into the mainstream anytime soon? And how has the whole lockdown thing changed that?
A
Yeah.
three-folded question.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. So I have met. So I spent the last decade plus working and traveling around, meeting different inventors. And uh, so, why do people invent? What is it, and what is it about these technologies? I think this is important to kind of get to a deeper level here.
Yeah.
Right. So, and this goes into some research that we can talk about in a little bit. But a lot of the people, and not all, but a lot of the people that I met had some type of insight that didn't come from, their textbook, and didn't come from, again, something in the dominant culture. This came from like a deeper knowing that the changes that we would experience on the planet were going to be pretty extreme. And we needed to be able to be sovereign with our energy in order to be able to get through these changes. So, you had people that had this insight previously. And, that was a certain percentage of the population. And then you had others that they were engineers, or they are engineers, or, they had some type of mechanical, electrical, and scientific knowledge that said, I'm seeing something different on my table when I'm doing my work. I'm seeing that there's a possibility here, or I'm seeing this little impact that I didn't read about in my studies in school. So how is what I learned about standard physics and what I'm seeing on the table, like, how does that even line up? And so these, what I would call them, very brave inventors, would go off, and typically on their own. Many of them work in some pretty big isolation. Some don't, but a lot of them do. And they would just sit there and pursue and pursue and pursue. And, so that's a lot of who we have. And some have funding, and they've got teams of people, but it's not enormous. I mean, most of this is independent inventors, and some are like small to, I would say, it's not even a mid-sized organization, just, a more smaller team of, maybe 5 to 8 people. I mean,
so they're not driven by money. They're driven by, I want to invent this problem. Yeah. Okay.
Most of the times they're broke.
Yeah. Okay.
And they need support. So that level of commitment. This isn't just crazy inventors in the garage. It's more than that. There's this deeper drive and this deeper impulse, if you will, to. It's not to find an alternative way. It's that they've experienced something by working with the technology. It's like the technology is teaching them, and they're learning from the technology that there is a possibility that again, the standard physics says is not real, what have you. But they're seeing that, and so that's what gives them that drive, and that's why they keep moving forward. I mean, they're incredible people, because of that. To answer your question about will we see some of these in the mainstream? I'm very blessed, because I'm not an engineer, so I'm very blessed to know people here where I live as well that are probably some of the best technology vetters on the planet, and I've known them for years. And we speak often, and they've seen everything, they've vetted everything under the sun, and they have promise that we will see technology come soon. So is it out there today in, that you and I can go get at, the store or off of Amazon or whatever? Not yet. But it's obviously extremely worthy pursuit. And I want to go back to something that it's teaching us, and maybe we're teaching it, there's some type of information, but maybe there is a moral component to this. Maybe there is an evolutionary, and there is, going back to what you said in the beginning, there are dynamics at play that we may not entirely understand yet. And it may also be about timing for this, from also a safety standpoint, so safety of the inventor, safety of that the world realizes that, we do need these things, and they can't be squashed and kiboshed. And, there's a lot of dynamics that are at play. But I would say, how has the lockdown affected all of this? It quieted it down. I'll be really honest with you, I mean, even for my organization, everything really just, stopped for a period of time. And it's actually in the process of things are slowly coming back. But, it's like anything, if something goes down, well, maybe there's a pressure that's put on that then all of a sudden you're going to get this, this opposite reaction that's going to come back, that's going to be more strong. So I think what we're seeing now is more of that strength that's building. In addition, you're obviously seeing a lot now from even mainstream on, some of these advanced technologies. There's whispers of it that are being, dropped and popped through, right? Because it's you can't squash something that seems to be, kind of pushing through. And again, maybe from an evolutionary standpoint.
Yeah. So what kind of tech are we going to see? Can you, without revealing the inventor's name or anything, what kind of stuff do you think we're going to see? I mean, I've always, obviously being a pilot and loving flying machines, I always criticize the fact that, all our computers and all that, our whole life has accelerated. All our technology has accelerated, except for airplanes. Airplanes you flying at the same speed they were flying 50 years ago. So, and a lot of people talk about the sonic boom and this and that and fuel, and we haven't found a right aerodynamic situation yet, or the engines, but I think they're all excuses. So, what kind of technology have you seen that works that we may see in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, in the technology that I'm interested in, I know, if people want to go to the right to anti-gravity, I think we have a little ways to go on that one. To learn to lighten our own bodies first, probably before we do that. So, what I've seen mostly is technology that can run your home, right? Like technology that can run your home. Maybe it's running a certain machinery in your house, or it's running, it can run your home. And to me, that's the technology that we probably, I would say should be focusing on, but really seems like, heavens forbid, if the grid goes down due to, an EMP or, something from the sun, right, that comes in, or who knows, maybe, the power company decides to shut off your power because, you are socially saying things that they don't like. I mean, who knows, right? That did happen. Power was shut off, I believe, in California, not because people were saying anything, but, these things do happen. So, one says to themselves, I mean, I live in New England. If somebody shut the power off, that there's a problem here, unless, of course, you have a wood stove. So powering your home, right, is what I see most of the inventors are really working towards.
So when you say power your home, meaning an independent power source that you can
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's usually the safe zone, meaning if you can get that capacity to have, power for your home, then, there's that independence and there's that sovereignty piece that comes into play, right? So that's what I see most of these inventors working on. Of course, you have to be able to get the, get a certain amount of power that is there to be able to do that. And of course, have to be able to, replicate this and make sure that, this is something that's going to last, that's not going to, peter out. So that's what I see as the most promising. And there's lots of different ways that can be done. I mean, you have magnetics, you've got water, you've got steam, something called back EMF as well. So there's lots of different ways. You don't typically see inventors doing the exact same thing. There's always these different variations, which is really cool. And, we do list that in the Hidden Energy book, which kind of makes you think like, wow, the expressions of how we can extract energy and generate energy is not limited. And that's pretty cool. I mean, look at what we have already currently, running in our houses. I mean, you've got different forms, right? Well, this operates on that, similarly as well.
I mean, Elon Musk has got the tiles that you put on your roof, which bring in, they're solar panels basically. And then you've got the Tesla battery on your house. And so that will charge the Tesla battery, and that makes you independent. But you're talking about different types of energy, though.
Yeah,
besides
so yeah, these would be different.
Musk
Like,
thing? Yeah.
they're technically called free energy, but is it free? Well, no, not really.
Yeah.
But it's more the way to think about it is over unity. So you're putting so the energy that you're putting in, you're getting more out than what you're putting in. So that's
Okay.
technically, just
Yeah.
keeping it really simple. That's what
Hmm.
over unity means. And
Hmm.
what the inventors try to do is do closed loop, which means that it's perpetually moving, it's perpetually going, and you're not needing to put any other inputs in to make this happen. And
Hmm.
so that's what a lot of them are aiming for. And
Hmm.
I would say this. Again, I'm not a technician. I'm more
Yeah.
someone that comes in from, I guess, an organization and maybe the interpersonal
Hmm.
piece of all of this to see how does this, because I have an organizational consulting background,
Yeah.
so how does this all flow again with consciousness. And these things have been pushing in the background for many, many, many years. And there hasn't been support from mainstream, right? Mainstream universities and whatnot. But that's shifting and it's changing. And as that, and it's only happening in little pockets here and there. So I think it's University of Colorado. There's a professor there, and I know that there are people on vetting teams that are from universities, and you also have NASA that comes in and does vetting on some of these technologies. So you've got that. Is it good? Is it bad? With the NASA, I don't entirely know. Because you have to look at other people's interests. But the point
Yeah.
is that there are people that at these higher levels that will look at these things. So when you see that level of I guess acceptability, then you say, okay, so there's a promise here. There's I wouldn't say hope, but there's something that's pushing through. And for the people that are watching this, is to if you're interested in it, if there's people around your area, to find ways to support, because there's some very talented inventors that really don't entirely have the support that they could use and that they need. It's strange. It's a strange one that happens, but at the same time, they're working. They're working as fast and hard as they can.
Well, it's like that you can power a car with water, and the engine that is locked in a museum somewhere, and they're not releasing it. But there are some people that are changing things in their cars to power it by hydrogen or water,
Yeah.
or better electric batteries and whatnot. So but we all know that the economy is based on an oil-based economy.
Right.
So what would happen if we collapse that oil-based economy tomorrow morning? When there's so many things that are sitting around us right now, take plastic, for example, plastic's
Yeah.
made from oil. A lot of people would end up without a job if we
Right.
did this overnight. So
Right.
obviously we have to be socially responsible at the same time. But I think there are certain powers to be that are a bit greedy.
Yes.
It's in their interest that this technology doesn't come out there, because then they're going to lose a ton of money. But I think if there's enough people that are ready for it, I think power to the people, and that's the way I see it. I think,
And there's roles. The thing is, and by the way, I'm not a fan of collapsing down with the oil and collapse the
yeah,
economy to
yeah,
get these
yeah,
technologies. And I'm not in agreement with that. That we need a lot of transition agents here.
yeah,
And
exactly.
in what you see, I mean. There's people that are in the oil industry that understand there's a transition, that they get it,
Yeah.
maybe not all at the super high levels, but I think there's other people that really get that there's a transition that needs to take place, and they want to become part of that transition, probably because it's, financially feasible, but maybe their kids are pressuring them and going, Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? My generation is asking for, a change in support. So, I think if we look at it as transition, and not just, kick out one and replace another. And it's complex. This stuff is not, it's not easy. We think, let's just get this in our house and so be it. But, obviously there's a whole deck of cards that is connected to all of this. But, there's your jobs, right? We need people that can help to transition. And I'm also seeing that there's a really talented group in Canada that they're, I won't say too much about them. They'd like to fly a little bit under the radar, but they're very much willing and able to participate in the transition phase, and that they have a level of savviness on there from, a simple business and human standpoint. And, so I think some people do get it.
Yeah, that's good. Now, you have an active interest in the whole UFO phenomenon. We've seen a lot of UFO sightings recently. Different news outlets have been talking about it. And there's been a certain level of disclosure from the US government, where they've said these flying objects, and they showed the video. The US Navy filmed these flying objects, and they say, we honestly don't know where they come from. And it looks like they're not ours. So what's your view on this whole UFO thing? I mean, are we being visited? And if so, why?
Well, are we, and why? Well, I have a colleague and a longtime acquaintance and friend by the name of Dr. Rudy Shield, who is he was retired now, but he was the head of the Journal of Cosmology, and he is an astrophysicist at Harvard, at the Smithsonian Center, and he, somebody that looks at the sky for his living and did for ages, and retired from the university, would say it's statistically improbable for life to not exist outside of Earth. So there's a bit of a grounding from a scientific standpoint, that it's statistically improbable. And if you remember, years ago, they would say, well, if we found water on Mars, then life may exist in the universe, right? And well, we know there's water on Mars. So with this, I participated in research with a group of probably, I think it's about like 13 other PhD researchers, and we surveyed about, I think it was about 4,000 people, I don't have the exact number, that believed that they had some form of contact. Okay, so some form of contact could be, I saw a ship, it could be I had communication with a being. It could be, it was a physical embodied being, and some people would say it was a light being, and some people would say that it was, maybe their future self that they were hearing. So we surveyed thousands of people, and this was over many years, and this is through a group that at the time was called the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. They're now called CCRI, which is Consciousness Contact Research Initiative. So what you're seeing is lots of research now that's taking place, instead of let's laugh at these people. Oh, hey, world's in, kind of trouble right now. Maybe there's something that we can learn from this. And so the chapter that I was very interested in, of course, and to participate, and I said, can we ask these people if they, and this was the question, if they had, do you believe that you possess information about advanced technology, advanced physics, or other scientific information that you've never read or learned in your normal environment? And basically, what we found was 41% of those people said yes. So you have over 1,000 people that said yes. 58% said no. So that was about 1,400 people. So, okay, let's take those 1,000 people and let's provide another survey and really get into the nuts and bolts of this and ask them about, what is this about? Who communicated this to you? How did you know this? And so the two areas that I would share with you that I think are the most important is, what was the nature of the information on this? Well,
interesting you say this, because when I spoke to the biographer of Nikola Tesla, he was telling me that there is a theory that Nikola Tesla was born on a spaceship and then he was brought down to Earth and adopted by this family in Yugoslavia. But he said, I just put it out there that there is this,
there are divine conceptions. It could be. I don't know. It could be. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that before. Interesting. So we asked them about, what's the nature of it? Like, what's the nature of this? And then we get into the purpose. And this was, by the way, this was published in 2018, and it's interesting because you had some of the UFO information out there. It was more like the tic-tac-toe stuff and, coming from, government release. something's there, we don't know what it is. But now all of a sudden you're getting these people that were speaking about this now talking about consciousness. They weren't talking about this before, just to be really, really clear. So, I do think that we help to push the consciousness piece, really in this, because you have to go deep and really ask these questions as opposed to taking things at face value and do legitimate research. So I want to share this because it's important. To really, get this. So what people were getting was a whole host of information, but predominantly it was about the nature of the universe. It was like, okay, so your scientists on Earth are sharing this with you, but here's actually how the universe is really works. This is the nature of it.
And this message was coming from different people. Same message. Kind of.
The nature of this information was coming from those people surveyed.
Yeah. Out of 1,000 people that said that they had some experience, obviously there's quite a number of them which were coming back with the same message. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. And that consistency is what you pay attention to. And
exactly.
It's painstaking to do the research because it's qualitative type of research, which requires you to read.
It's a bit like the research that's been done on near-death experiences.
Yes.
And everybody has had similar experience.
Yes, exactly. And you see that these common threads. So we were trying to understand, one, are there common threads? And you go there open-minded. If you're doing good research, you go open-minded with that. And then, of course, boom, you start to see those threads of similarity. So it's the nature of the universe, consciousness and education training. So this, they were being shown and taught how to manage their emotions, how to influence matter, how to work with the energy of the earth, how to work with the energy of other people. Here's another one, ship creation and navigation. Some people were actually shown how to work with these different, energies with the ships, not only just navigating them, but creating them. I mean, that one blew me away because I was like, okay. Some people were getting information about the earth changes, which, I would like to spend a moment on because I think that piece is super important. And then the other part of this was universal love and love felt. So, these were these predominant themes. There was also some other themes, device creation, like new energy technologies, healing technologies, which there are people that have healing technologies that are out right now. They're called wellness devices, but that actually came from some of these, experiences that they've had. And, we can talk about those at another time too. Accurate history of the earth, life purpose, medical information, earth healing. So that was one of, there's one chart that we did. Another chart that we did was, what's the purpose of this? Okay, what's the big reason? And the big reason was these earth changes, the upcoming shifts on the planet, in these abilities that they were given previously that they would be using in the near future. So it's almost like preparation for what's to come. I call them adaptive abilities. Some people will call them extraordinary, ESP and this and that. I just think they're evolutionary adaptive abilities. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like I do believe we're getting assistance, and it's up to us to utilize that assistance to move through these times. So,
as human, with our bodies today, if you take athletes, for example, as performance-wise, athletes today can do a lot better than athletes 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I've got one of my sons is training to be a professional golfer, and, we're talking to different coaches and that. And you're saying, that today, compared to even 20 years ago, these guys work out in the gym. So you need to get fit as well. You need to watch what you eat and whatever. But, 20 years ago, a fat guy could go out and become a professional golfer. Today, it's not happening because people have just got better. A bit technology, a bit discovery. There's so much more we can do with our bodies and so much more that we know about our bodies. So by having increased that knowledge, we can increase the performance and also longevity.
It's an excellent example. You're totally on track with that. I was actually watching a female runner, and I was watching what she did. And at the very, I mean, she nailed this race. And
Yeah.
at the very end, she just went and gave a little like cute smile, like, because she
Yeah.
knew the cameras were on and
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
part of the whole
Yeah.
thing to do, right? I'm just like, well, I couldn't have done that when I was her age. I mean, wow, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So these abilities, and we're changing. And I think this is the thing to understand. The purpose of the information was to increase your vibration, to increase love,
Increased
calm.
vibration. That's an interesting one, because I've been
Yeah.
looking into that.
Yes.
Increased vibration. My wife is also an aromatherapist as well as a
Oh,
herbalist and that. And
lovely.
she always says to people when they visit her that, she uses essential oils in everything that she does. And she said the essential oils will increase your frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And different oils do different things,
Yes.
depending on the nature of the person's ailment and that. But these essential oils are something that's been around forever.
Absolutely.
But only recently, in the last, I say, 10, 15 years, have they discovered some of the incredible properties that these essential oils have. But this has
Yeah.
been sitting there, and even in the Bible, they talk about using essential oils, but
Yes.
kind of, they just think, oh, why, for example, even the story of Jesus, why did they give Jesus gold, frankincense, and myrrh?
Right.
Well, let's look into what gold, frankincense, and myrrh can actually do, because not many people know that you can actually eat gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And frankincense has got some amazing properties, and so has myrrh. So
Right.
one needs, because everybody always gets lost in the gold thing. Oh, gold, yeah, gold coins. Wait a minute, because
Yeah.
if you look into what gold can actually do if you were to ingest it, same with frankincense and myrrh, there's more of a message there. So
Yes.
it's
Oh,
interesting.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think we fell so hard into certain density as a species, and now I think we may be, I don't want to say coming out of it, but we may be rediscovering parts of ourself that we lost, over generations and over generations, and now, because they are incredible. Those essential oils do shift, and they work with animals too. I mean, it's incredible. I have friends that have
Yeah,
PhD.
because animals help you. I mean, a dog. I mean, we've got 3 dogs and a cat, and and they will come to you and spend time with you, and it just makes you feel good, and
Right.
that feeling good will increase your vibration. And when we
Right.
increase our vibration, we feel better, we do better, we function better. It's all, and certain emotions have a frequency, as you probably
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And as we
Yes.
learn that the positive emotions increase our vibration and the negative ones decrease it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another interesting thing. So I find it very interesting that one of the messages is about vibration. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, absolutely. And it's about increasing our love that we have within ourselves for others, calmness,
Yeah.
and our intelligence, because it is true. And I spent years, and I published research also in emotional intelligence, and spent years with the creators of emotional intelligence. So, this is obviously, we're going to a different level. This is beyond emotional intelligence. You're talking, something that is deeply, it's almost like it's deeply underwriting your central nervous system. So these profound experiences that these people that we surveyed have had is that this it's again, it's like these evolutionary adaptive abilities that is going beyond that day-to-day central nervous system. It's like underwriting it, if that makes sense. And again, it's fascinating because, again, when you look at what's going on in the planet, to not get caught up in all of the mega fear and the mega hardships and, all the stuff that maybe the
Which
power.
is what the lockdown did. And this is another point that I always tell people. I said, the lockdown has put fear in people. A lot of people went to get and I won't say the name, because out of fear.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop and say, wait a minute, what's actually in that thing? Let's look at the ingredients. Let's understand what those ingredients are going to do. Is it going to be beneficial? People didn't even get to that because they put so much fear in people that's what motivated them. And unfortunately, very often fear is a bigger motivator than pleasure.
Absolutely. So that it was the input of fear with the input of then what you do. So when I studied emotional intelligence, there's a great little graph, and it talks about blended emotions. So when you get fear and trust and you merge those together, you get submission. So if you can put fear into people, you will die if. So therefore, you can do this, and you can trust it is safe and effective, right?
Yeah.
So
Let's get back a little bit to the people that say they've met with the extraterrestrials. Now, when they're getting these messages, how are they happening? Is a spaceship landing in their back garden, a guy saying, "Hi, I'm from Mars," or wherever they're from, and let's sit down and let's have a chat? I mean, is some of that going on, or is it some being that appeared in their living room? I mean, how are they just getting these messages in the middle of the night through a dream? I mean, and I should imagine there's a mix and match of many of these, but let's talk about the spaceship landing and people meeting a being from another planet. Has any of that been going on amongst these 1,000 people that said that they had some form of contact?
yeah, so pretty much everything you listed is fairly accurate. And we studied that as well, because we asked them, so what form of contact are we talking about? The majority of people, I think it was 34%, would have it while they were laying in bed. So there would be a being that would be in bed, or they could feel the presence of a being, and the communication was very clear. It could be upon them going to sleep or waking up. So that was a predominant. For other people, they did have experiences on ships. They were taken aboard a craft that they. And all different types of beings. I mean, we looked at, there's grays, there's what people refer to as tall whites, there's reptilians, there's Pleiadians. I mean, there's an enormous array, and sometimes people had names for them and sometimes they didn't. And people would also say that there was an angelic being. Some people would say that it was an orb that they saw that was communicating with them. I would say there was an intelligence that was giving them information in a profound connection that would be guiding them into some capacity. So the information was guiding, or the ability that they then had within them would guide them. And some people would be shown how to heal. And then those people went and, eventually became a healer or did healings on people. So it's everything under the sun. So it's not just, because I want to get out of this one piece, because I think, we have such attachment as to form all the time. Like, oh, it has to be, like somebody pulling the driveway coming, it's not entirely like that. It's on these more refined, subtle levels. And for others, it occurred during meditation. So that's why, that calm state of mind and that open state of mind and that presence is a real key in these connections and in this communication. And sometimes people were in fear. And, they didn't like what was happening, or they didn't want that. We didn't get a lot of that, but there was some, like a very small percentage, was in there. And then some of those folks afterwards said, geez, if I wasn't in such a big state of fear, I probably could have handled this and had a more profound connection, but I was too afraid, I was asked to stop. So this is happening. And Fabrizio, can I say one more thing about, so I study a lot and I write about this on Substack, because I feel like my job is to try to help people in organizations. Like the new energy piece is one thing, but also, it's the human transition on the planet, and work with people in organizations, because the electromagnetics are shifting on the planet. Like what's around the Earth is what's called the magnetosphere, which I'm sure some of your people that watch this know, and that's been waning. And because of that, what happens from space, cosmic rays, and what happens from flares from the sun, we're feeling those impacts on Earth. Like Earth is feeling it, but also we as human beings are feeling it. And I don't have the science on this, but I'm pretty sure there's there is supplemental science on this. I just haven't put it together. That there's a correlation between, these shifts that we're feeling within ourselves and these electromagnetic changes on the planet. And, it could be that all of this put together that we've just talked about in 29 minutes, is this change that human beings, if they so choose, to, move to these more subtle realms, that because the Earth is doing it. And because that's the nature of the cosmos right now, that the density that we've experienced previously may be releasing, and human survival could be very much connected to that as we move forward.
Okay, very interesting. No, I mean there's certainly changes happening in the world, and being aware of this new energy, being aware of new technology, but also being aware that we are not alone. There are people from other planets. They are here now. They are amongst us. They have, as you said, a number of messages for us. But out of these 1,000 people that claim to have met with some form of extraterrestrial, there's consistency. And when there's consistency and you're interviewing 1,000 people and there's consistency, there must be something going on. And this is what, I'd like people to start to think about. So obviously these people have more technology than we do. They're more advanced. It's like in everything. If you want to learn something new, you go to the expert. So what can these people help us? How can they help us improve as people and as a society? Because I guess at some point we will be allowed to leave this planet and go out there and venture out like they do in Stargate and Star Trek and that. But we need to be ready. And I think that ready bit is the thing that we really need to be working on in order to be able to do that. We need to improve our lives here before we go out and try and do something out there. Because look what, the Europeans did when they moved to America 200 years ago. Right. They suppressed the American Indians that were living there. And that was not a nice thing. And the American Indians have a lot to teach us. They were very connected to the planet. And this is one of my criticisms towards technology, even though I love technology, is that we still need to be connected to the planet, as in go for a walk on the beach without your shoes on, go and spend some time walking through the forest, or go for a hike in the mountains. These are, and don't take your phone with you, or just keep it in your bag. Don't walk through the forest on your phone like some people do. Just soak it in, because otherwise we're just going to develop technologies that aren't in tune with the planet, and eventually I think the planet itself will rebel and cause some earthquake and whatever, and just get rid of the fleas like a dog gets rid of the fleas. It scratches its back. And I very much believe that a planet is alive, and if we're doing things that aren't in tune with it, it'll just get rid of those things that are disturbing it. Yeah. And that's maybe an explanation for volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and tsunamis and whatnot. But anyway, great talking to you, Susan. We'll put a link to your book, Hidden Energies, and very interesting. And also I'll put a link also to your Substack blog, so people can connect with you. And thank you very much for being in Quantum Action. And everybody remember to subscribe, and we're here to help you to go to infinity and beyond.